Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to see such a full room. If you could please make your way to your seats, that would be greatly appreciated. Awesome. Great. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Meg Cirillo. I am a Public Information Officer for Northern Rockies Team 6. It is an absolute delight to be here, and we thank you so much for inviting us to your community to give this presentation. You'll notice all the equipment. We are live streaming this event on Facebook and on YouTube. Now, I don't know if anybody else gets slide FOMO during presentations, fear of missing out. But if you do, don't worry, a recording of this presentation is going to be available afterward, and the whole slide presentation will be there so that you can pause and review content at your own pace. We have a whole group of wonderful folks here to talk to you about the Aspen Acres fire. Representatives from the fire incident team, Huerfano County, and the Forest Service are here to give you an update on the current fire situation. Our goal is to briefly recap what has happened with the fire, but we really want to outline our incident objectives and explain plans for the coming days. We plan to have our speakers address as many community concerns as related to the fire as possible tonight. We respect your time, and we will be keeping this meeting to about an hour. One little bit of housekeeping. I'll check mine if you check yours. If you could just make sure that your phones are on silent for the meeting, I would greatly appreciate it. There will be an opportunity for questions at the end of the presentation. So if you could just please hold on to them until all of our speakers have had a chance to present, that would be wonderful. And then in the event you don't get your answers during the live Q&A, all of these wonderful folks will be available at the back of the room with the maps so that you can speak with them one-on-one and get the information you need. And then, if you find yourself 3 miles down the road after the meeting and have a question, don't worry. We have an information phone number that you can call, as well as an email address that I'm happy to provide after the meeting. We have maps and fire information available online in CWeb, as well as the Aspen Acres Fire 2026 Facebook and the Aspen Acres Fire 2026 in Spanish, en español, are available. And then those are the best sites to get the most up-to-date information about significant events. So, thank you for sitting through my spiel. The actual experts are ready to go. And with that, I would like to welcome representatives from the fire team to come on up, starting with our fire meteorologist.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Mike Seaman. I'm one of the incident meteorologists that is assigned to the fire. Some of you may wonder, why is there a meteorologist assigned to the fire? A couple of reasons. One is firefighter safety. There's been a number of tragic incidents over the years where things like wind shifts, lightning have resulted in, unfortunately, firefighter fatalities. So one of our primary roles is basically monitoring radar, monitoring for lightning, monitoring for wind shifts, such as the thunderstorm that we have out here currently. And we could radio that information out to the crews so they can get to their safety zones in the event of lightning moving into their area, a wind shift that's going to change the direction and movement of the fire, things like that. So we're always monitoring radar and getting that information out to the crews to try to keep them safe while they do their work to keep the community safe. We're also providing weather information to the team. Weather is a big part of the wildfire triangle. The 3 things that go into that triangle are fuels, what we call fuels, vegetation. Those are your trees, your brush, your grass, that type of thing. The terrain or the topography, how steep the slopes are, the aspect, that kind of thing. And the third thing is weather, the relative humidity, wind direction and speed, how that wind lines up with some of the canyons, with some of the drainages. So we're basically assessing that kind of information, providing it to the team so that they can plan accordingly what their operational strategies are going to be to fight this fire. So that's our other role, is basically providing that information to the team. So what I want to do now is just talk a little bit about the weather conditions that led up to this fire, when it really made its big runs, and then where we're going from here on out through the remainder of this summer. You know, across not just this area, but the region in general, we had a really dry, warm winter. We had record low snowpack across most of the western portion of the United States. That's left us in drought across much of the west. We kind of knew this was going to be a pretty active fire season, and unfortunately that's the way that it's turned out. As we moved into late June, early July, do we have another slide, or is this the... Cool, this is what I was looking for. As we moved up into the window where this fire started and then really took off, you see a lot of red on this matrix. These are basically the days of the week, and then we have temperature, humidity, overnight recovery. You see a lot of red there. Basically what we were looking at there was hot, dry, windy conditions. That's what leads to extreme fire weather conditions. You'll hear the term red flag warning sometimes. That's basically what we're looking at, is those hot, dry, windy conditions that are favorable for, the weather conditions are favorable for fire to really get up and grow rapidly and become a real menace on the landscape. So as we went into that week, we saw minimum humidity values below 10%, as low as 3% on Monday, June 29th. That is exceptionally low, especially for this portion of the country and really anywhere. The other thing we had was overnight. We weren't getting those humidity recoveries above 50 or 60%. They were staying below 30%. That basically resulted in a much longer burn window, allowed the fire to continue to grow well into the evening and overnight hours. The other thing is we had some very strong winds, gusting 30 to 40 miles an hour at times throughout several day periods. So this combination of hot, dry, windy was really favorable for this fire to take off, given the drought and everything else that was going on. So as we moved further along with the fire, we began to get some thunderstorms in the area. We began to bring up some of that humidity, and we see some of that green show up. So if we move forward to the forecast, the good news is we don't see any of those extreme fire weather conditions coming up. We see much less red on this matrix. We see a lot more yellows and even some greens. And the other thing that's very positive is, as we get out into early next week, we start to see some precipitation chances. So we're not expecting any of that really hot, dry, and windy weather that we saw when this fire took off. We're looking more at some moderated fire conditions. The humidity is going to be a little bit lower, and the temperatures are going to be a bit warmer as we go into the weekend. Those chances of rain are going to diminish a bit, but as we get into next week, we start to bring a lot of that moisture up, and we're looking at greater than 50% chance of rain on the fire beginning Tuesday and continuing through much of next week. Of course, with that, there comes lightning and there comes outflow winds. That can certainly cause problems on the fire as well, with those outflow winds shifting direction and pushing the fire in different directions with time. But the good news is we don't expect any of those hot, dry, windy conditions anytime soon. As we get further along into July, August, and even early September, climatologically, those are not real favorable times of year for those hot, dry, windy conditions. So the good news is I think that's behind us, at least for the coming weeks. We will be dealing with those thunderstorms, but that increase in humidity should help to moderate things a bit. So that's what I have. I'll be around after for questions, and I'll turn it over to fire behavior.
Thanks. My name is Rick Connell. I'm a fire behavior analyst. What that job means is taking the information that you get from your incident meteorologist and then looking out there and figuring out what's going to burn. Where is it going to burn? How fast is it going to burn? And try and paint that picture for our firefighters so that they can figure out the best strategy or tactic to be able to attack a fire or manage a fire, depending on what the situation is. And so, can I go to my slide? So here's an example of I've been fighting fire for 40 years, so now we have cool tools that we didn't have when many of us were younger. But this is an example of what we can do these days with trying to model where the fire is going to go. So all models are wrong. Some models are useful. Maybe you've experienced such things, right? So in this case, what we did is on this piece of the fire, the red line is where the fire had what existed a day or two ago. And then what we did is we, quote, lit up the line, provided some weather inputs that we got from our meteorologist, and tried to see where this fire would go, this part of the fire. And then use that to figure out how we were going to take care of and be ready for that on the next day. Now, on this given day, this fire this model over-predicted. We got fire kind of like this. We didn't make it all the way up to the top and further. So, like I said, they're useful, but they're not always 100% accurate. So that's a tool that we use to try and see where we go. We have tools that work on a larger scale and a larger time frame that are more probability. What's the probability of a fire moving over 5-7 days? And so that's what the fire behavior analyst job is to kind of figure out where the fire is going to go so that we can figure out how to respond to it appropriately and what resources we're going to need. Like on this resource, Manny will talk here in a few minutes about, but we use things like here's the highway 165, and even though we mistakenly lit the bottom of the fire, the road's holding the fire. So we put that in as a barrier usually, and we forgot to do that. So it showed it jumping the road, but it's a barrier and probably it could spot over, but it wouldn't burn across asphalt, right? So we can modify the landscape to see what the fire will do. We can also go in and there's some other treatments that have been done on the landscape. So we can go modify the vegetation in the model so that we can show that the fire will spread slowly in that, if there's other fires on the landscape. So that's generally what the fire behavior analyst is doing, is trying to provide that information, and also in conjunction with the IMET, providing safety for the firefighters out there so that they know how hot the fire is going to be, how tall the flame is going to be, how fast it's going to move, because those are all critical things. If you're out there walking around on a fire and the fire is moving really fast, you don't have time to get back to a truck. That's when we have fatality fires. People get caught in fires, and we try to avoid that at all costs because firefighter and public safety is our number one concern, right? So I'll be around afterwards to help answer any other questions. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Manny Mendoza. I'm one of the operations section chiefs for Northern Rockies Team 6. And if folks are standing and need a chair, there's a lot of seats up front if you want to come up. Usually firefighters always go to the back, so it's nice to know that it's just not just firefighters that always sit in the back. So I swear I don't stink that bad. As an operations section chief, what do? I really oversee all the resources on the fire. We look at the situation, what do we have, how do we fight the fire, and we order resources. We're a national firefighting force. We bring those folks in to fight the fire, and then depending on the firefighters we need, the engines that we require, the airplanes, we decide where to put those. We come up with a plan on the fire, and we go after this. This is day 3 for us being here on the Aspen Acres fire. The team before us, the Alaska team, really set us up for success, and also a change in the weather. As you folks know, what they had and dealt with, the loss that this community has seen was unprecedented. And so here we are. There is a condition change. We've had rain. They put in some good control lines to keep the fire from spreading, and we're taking advantage of that, and I'll get into that in a minute. So, but really, Alaska really set up for success, and I'll get into that. The current situation on the fire we have right now is looking really well. The east side of the fire is contained. All the black you see on the fire is where firefighters have put in line. They've checked that line. They feel comfortable with it. They're still patrolling it because there still may be heat near the line, but they're looking at that and patrolling it and mopping that up as well as they can. The fire is now over 100,000 acres. That's a lot of real estate they have to look at every day. So there's a lot of folks in there, And especially with the rain, the different weather that's going to be coming, we're looking at some of those control lines and making sure with the monsoonal moisture that's coming, again, that we don't have excessive damage with now that the vegetation's gone, rain coming, some of that. So we are considering that as well. As we come around, things are looking really well. I'll get into some of the evacuations here in just a second, but the plan right now, again, with what Alaska had, was looking at a bigger box. Where is this fire going? Where do we put control lines and try to catch it where those areas allow us? The fuels are lighter. We get out of the timber into more grassy areas and where we can be more successful. Because of the weather change, we've been have opportunity to get a little more aggressive on this thing without undue risk to the firefighters out there. We've been trying to squeeze the box, what we call, I don't know where this came from, I guess it looked like a rabbit's foot or a chicken's foot earlier on, but this bulge where it comes out in here near Isabel, we're really putting a lot of emphasis on that. That is our main priority right now. The reason for that is if that fire goes south into the wilderness area, there's not a whole lot of opportunity to pick that fire up in there. It's goat rocks, it's steep, it's just not a lot of access. If it gets in there, we're back into the situation where if this fire comes and moves east, the community of Rye, Colorado, it's all back into the same game again. So our main emphasis right now is to make sure that fire does not move south and also move further east. So we got most of our forces in here trying to get this line in. The last couple of days, you've seen some smoke coming up. They've had spots across the line. They've had helicopters working it constantly, and I think today they actually had some of the water scoopers, a couple of them come in today too and try to help hold that line. As we start moving around into Isabel, again, point protection, homes, and we're trying to, again, squeeze that box, get a little bit tighter in there, and take a little more riskier approach to stop the fire and get in there. Same thing around here, we're control lines, we're putting lines in, and what we're trying to do, because some of that area is steep, ugly country, there's dead trees, what we call snags. Those can come down and hurt firefighters. We're using aviation assets. We're using what we call drones, UAS, but drones to actually ignite those fuels and bring fire down to the fire's edge so then we can put the fire's edge out with firefighters. It's a lot easier to put the fire out on better ground, near a road, a dozer line, than it is way up on the hill. So we're trying to bring that fire's edge down so we can control that. We're having really good success up further north, containing that, and then on around. So our main emphasis is on this west side, but a lot of ugly country in there, and we're just putting a lot of emphasis. And nice thing, well, I will say, is so we were the #1 fire in the nation as of yesterday. Today, with the Northwest getting a lot of lightning strikes, a lot of new fires, the Northwest area, which is Colorado, Oregon, or I'm sorry, it's Oregon and Washington, they are now the #1 priority, which bumps us down, and it's harder to get resources. We have made the plea to get more resources, which we call hotshot crews. Everybody's familiar with the crews that get out there and get her done. Our best crews out there, the hotshot crews. Last I heard just a few hours ago before I came here is we're getting 4 more hotshot crews, which allow us the horsepower to get in here and really fight this aggressively and get this done. So a lot of really good work. Again, the weather has been cooperative. We're really keeping our fingers crossed for the rain that's going to be coming, and so we can keep going after this thing, knowing we still got a lot of season, right? It's July now. We still have August, September, and as we know, the fall does get really dry here. I was here on East Troublesome up north in 2020, I believe, and me and our team got our butts kicked on that one as well. So I understand, like, later in the season, fire season doesn't end after the rains come. It keeps going. So getting this fire, a good containment line around this thing, is our highest priority. I know I'm going long, but what I will say is we also know you have been displaced. When our teams come in, our job primarily is to try to bring sense to chaos. When a fire comes and people have to leave their homes and get out of harm's way, we understand that upsets the community. So our job is not just, one, put the fire out, but also get people home in a safe manner. So part of that, working with the different counties and the different sheriffs, getting people out of the way, harm's way, and evacuated, not only firefighters, but the public. but now it's time to start looking at those areas and getting folks in. So as you know, we've reduced some of the evacuations. Some have gone from full evac to pre-evac to just letting people in, but we're slowly progressing that in to let folks in. So we are looking at that every day, and that is one of our main priorities, is to get people back into their homes. Understanding firefighters still have a job to do. We still have to reduce the threat so we don't have another repeat, the fire pushing. It takes time to get people out of the way of a fire, so sometimes getting folks back into prematurely, we may have to turn around and bring them back out. So we want to make sure we make a good, smart decision. Again, firefighters are working in there, and we're doing that. We're going to be having folks come in here. We know we have evac zones out here in your area as well. You'll see smoke coming out, but we're considering that. The next one, if we can contain this, we feel really comfortable at keeping the fire from coming south. The next step would then the community of Rye as well, letting folks come back in there. We haven't made that decision yet, but it's every day we have that conversation, and even today is when can we make that happen. So understand that that is a constant priority of ours as we're going forward. Again, we'll have questions later, so I know you guys have a lot of them, but I'll let whoever's up next. Thank you.
Thank you, Manny. It's my pleasure to introduce Mitchell Wardell.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Mitchell Wardell, Warfenal County Commissioner for District 1. One of the updates we need to give you guys on GPID, which is the Gardner Public Improvement District, which includes water. We are going into water conservation notice, so we're asking all residents to do what they can to conserve water because of how dry and how hot it is. The river is down. Because it's down, we don't have the return flows that we normally would, so we don't have the augmentation that we normally would, so we're asking you to conserve water in every effort, and that includes those of you that use bulk water. With that, the Upper Warfenal Fire Protection District will be doing their part. They're going to pull water from their station up in Red Wing rather than from GPID to help conserve water. The Board of County Commissioners has been aiding a has been doing mutual aid to help support our neighboring counties where we can. With that, we approved ordering additional salamander system for both added capability and redundancy. We've also been helping out with a backup animal evacuation in Levita at the Levita Fairgrounds. So if you know anyone that has been evacuated or they need help with animals from this current evacuation up in the county, make sure you reach out to the county to help it, and we'll help you out with that. As the situation continues to go, the Board of County Commissioners has been very closely monitoring this fire because it could very easily come down into our part of the world. We'd like to thank all the firefighters that have been involved to help prevent that where they can. But we'll continue to monitor the situation as we see it. We've been working closely with emergency management, and with that, I'm going to ask our emergency manager to come up here and he will give you his update. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. I appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. For anyone who hasn't met me before, my name is Robert Gilbert. I'm Warfenal County's emergency manager. I moved here about 3 years ago from Joliet, Illinois. One of the things I really wanted to say is when you look around this room and you see all the people here from the incident management team and you see all the work that's been done and what they're doing, it takes a village, as you all know, to get anything done. And one of the things that's been amazing to see the last few weeks is the ways that we've been able to help our neighbors in their time of crisis too. The Upper Warfenal Fire Protection District, the Warfenal County Fire Protection District, they went out on a Thursday night at 2 in the morning to go help save Rye and help save Colorado City. They were there for 15, 16, 17, 18 hours that night doing that. That's something that's happened. We've gone up and helped Pueblo County with damage assessments. We've been in all sorts of different briefings, you know, day and night pretty much, following this, tracking this, seeing what we can do, looking at conditions as they approach our areas, paying attention to ingress and egress routes, what might be compromised. If it is going to be compromised, how long would it take to get people out from that area, and working on that. I would like to say for our evacuees in H16, H17, and H1 on the map that reentry cards will be available at the Warfenal County Department of Human Services at 10 a.m. on Monday. They will be there Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. to be able to get those cards. Anyone who needs a card at a time frame outside of that, we'll look and see what evening options we can open up. As Mitch alluded to, there is still some large animal sheltering available at La Vita Fairgrounds. We've had a varying number of animals there since Big Sheep Fire started, actually, practically. I'd like to make sure that we shout out the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control for their great work on the Big Sheep Fire, as well as everything that they've done to help with Aspen Acres. I'd like to mention the South Region Emergency Managers, so that's Custer County, Pueblo County, Fremont County, Huerfano County. We've been in constant communication every day, 24/7, 365, trying to figure out how to handle this and make sure that we're taking care of people. I'd like to mention also, please use official communication sources, the Huerfano County Facebook page, the Huerfano County website. Third-party apps are great. Sometimes they're a little delayed on what they update, and so let's make sure that we use official sources. I'd also like to mention Huerfano County Sheriff's Office. Huerfano County Sheriff's Office has been involved with us every step of the way, had a liaison with the Alaska team. Shout out to Dan Matthews back here representing the Sheriff's Office. Appreciate you being here. And then after that, I'll turn it over, and if we have any questions afterwards, I'll be here too. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. My name is Ryan Neal. I'm the Forest Supervisor for the Pike San Isabel National Forest and Cimarron Comanche National Grasslands. And first, I'd like to express my condolences for folks that have lost property, lost houses, made the trip over 12-mile to look at Beulah, and it's awful. And just want to express that to people, the people that have been evacuated. This is extremely stressful for you, and so just my heart goes out to you for that. We do have a great team here. This team's got a really good plan, but this fire is going to be here for a long time, and so trying to get in those areas buttoned up. They've taken the priorities, which are to protect the communities and protect the residents as number one priority. And so, like I said, as Robert mentioned, you should be really proud of your local emergency management as well as your sheriff's office. Everybody from Huerfano County, Pueblo, Custer, Fremont have been really crucial to this. And those folks, if you haven't given them some appreciation, please do, because they've spent a lot of hours on this and probably not gotten a lot of sleep. And so just really encouraged by the communication and the folks that you've got working for you. I will say that we've got a team out looking right now they're called a BEAR team, Burned Area Emergency Response, to kind of look at those areas that they're going to have some post-fire flooding. I mean, just to be honest, the soil severity in some of those areas it does not absorb water, and it's called hydrophobicity, and it's gonna come off. And so we're looking at ways to minimize that, minimize impacts to the water systems and people's property. I just appreciate the support we've gotten, and like I said, really know that it's a hardship to be evacuated, to be concerned. A lot of people have memories on these forests, and some of those areas are really impacted. They're not going to come back in our lifetime. And so I just want to recognize that, but know that we've got a good plan, and we're going to be working through this summer and try to get us back as quick as we can. Thanks.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Lobiondo, and I'm the local battalion chief for the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control. And I just want to talk briefly about how the state gets involved on a large incident like this. We have a process where the sheriff can delegate their suppression responsibility to the state of Colorado. And what that really means is it allows the state to bring the funding we need to help us manage an incident like this. From the Type 3 incident management team that was ordered the Monday morning that this fire started, to who you heard, Team Alaska, that has set up the Northern Rockies team to take this incident forward. There's a lot of divisions and departments with the state of Colorado, Homeland Security, Emergency Management, Department of Transportation, Colorado State Patrol. There's a lot of state agencies that are engaged in lots of different ways to to help us manage this incident. You heard it's going to be on the landscape for a while. We're going to hope for rain, but we're taking actions in the event that rain doesn't come. So we're here to help, to do all that we can to get you folks home as quickly as we can, and obviously as safely as we can as well. So I'll be around for questions if you have any. Thanks.
Good evening, folks. My name's Rich Cowger. I'm the Incident Commander for Northern Rockies Team 6. So as was mentioned the other day, we've been here now, I think this is our third day. They all kind of run together after a while. What I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is process, so that you understand what all happens when an event like this happens. As you well know, and was very well brought out, your local resources respond first. They help each other out to a point to where they're exhausted, right? They don't have any more to give, either physically or resource, which taps into your sheriff's department here, which taps into the state. Once the state starts getting tapped out, then they reach out to what's called NMAC, the National Agency Coordinating Center, something to that effect. There won't be a test on it at the end, so don't worry about it. What that agency does is coordinates all of the resources across the country during these events. So when this event took off in particular, right, your local folks hit it hard as they could, considering the weather conditions and the event and the environment they had. Due to a bunch of other fires going on in the region, so this is the Rocky Mountain region, which covers all of Colorado, North Dakota, Kansas, Wyoming, and South Dakota, I think. So this region covers all of that country. Due to several other fires going on in the area, they had actually pre-positioned the Alaskan team, brought them down from Alaska and pre-positioned them and had them in place, I believe, in either Boise or Denver, ready to go. So when the Type 3 team exceeded their capacity, they punched the button, the Alaskan team came in. And I will tell you what, many of us that watch this whole world wouldn't trade places with the Alaskan team for nothing. Those folks worked their butts off, and they got their butts kicked. And I say that in all due respect to them, right? It was nothing wrong that they did. It was the environment, it was the conditions, the fuel loading, and the lack of resources that were available at that point in time. If you got an opportunity to see their incident commander when he left, that poor guy was wiped out. It was 14 days of nothing but go, 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 go. And they made the comment, we called them, or we got the order on Friday. I called their incident commander on Saturday, we had a chat, and he's like, I will be so excited to see you guys get here. He was not having good days, right? But at the end of the day, the important thing was a couple things. No civilian lives lost. No firefighter lives lost. And that's what we strive for. No matter what the incident is, our main thing is life safety. Protection of property, unfortunately comes second, but that's okay. We can replace, we can regrow, we can rebuild stuff. We can't people. And so first and foremost, that's what we focus on. We came down. I will tell you a little bit about the Northern Rockies Team 6. We hail from the great state of Montana, except for there's a couple from New Jersey and some Californians and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, we come from Montana, northern Idaho. The Northern Rockies covers all of northern Idaho, Montana, and North Dakota. We came down with 114 folks. Now, what do those 114 folks do? Those 114 folks coordinate the additional 1,600 people that are working on this fire. And so literally we take a system and we put, I'd like to say I'm kind of like the lead orchestra, what is that called? The guy that, yeah, that person. But we try to make sure that every day the firefighters go out, they're on the same page, focusing the same mission for the same goals, right? Because otherwise you have 1,600 people working that many different directions, things don't go very well, right? And so that's what the job of the team is, really. We meet with the agency administrators. They put the sideboards on what we could do, how we can do it, and they turn us loose to get that done. So it is a daily event of planning, collaboration with all of our partners, which includes the local sheriffs, the local emergency coordinators, and all of that, any stakeholder that has a dog in the fight here to get us to a goal. That goal for us is to contain as much of this fire as we possibly can. I think Manny mentioned it or Rick mentioned it, I can't remember which one, but there's a reality that says there will be some fire on that mountain probably for quite some time. Unless the circumstances with the weather change, there's going to be fire on that mountain just because of the country that it's in. But our hope is that we can put enough containment on that and we can guide that thing so that it stays up in the high country. And we can set up, if there's another organization, and chances are there will be another organization behind us, whether it's another complex incident management team or it's a type 3 incident management team, there will be another organization behind us that will still have resources to try and manage that. And our hope is that by the time we're done, that we've set that up enough that they can keep that in the high country until a weather event comes along that takes it away, right? So part of that is that planning process for what's that look like. So again, we've been here, like this is our 3rd operational day, and we're already starting to think about what happens when we leave because we want everybody set up. Manny mentioned the evacuations. I started to go down the road about our team. There's some uniqueness about our team. We all like to say we're from the government, we're here to help. And I know that's the reaction that we're gonna get. The interesting thing about our team is our team is made up of about a third and a third and a third. And what do I mean by that? A third of them are federal partners. A third of them are state partners. And about a third of our folks are local government folks. So I can tell you with full confidence that we get it. 2010, I built a house in 2009. 2010, a fire almost took it. So I've sat in your shoes. My day job, I'm a local government fire chief for my community. So I understand what you're going through. I've been there. And I also realize that because of that, we're from the government, we're here to help. Doesn't set very well when we don't set things up to take care of you very well. All incidents start and end locally. My team comes and goes. If we don't do the right job, we get to walk away and you'll never see me again, hopefully. But it's our intent to make sure that when we walk away from here, we've set your local folks up successfully enough to make sure that your needs are taken care of the best we possibly can. Does that mean we can do everything? No, not at all. But we're going to try to do the best we can. The evacuation side of things for us is a huge deal. But we beg and ask for your patience if you're currently evacuated to just give us a little bit more time. Those folks out there on the ground are working diligently to secure things so that they can get you back into your homes and back into some kind of normalcy as soon as possible. But we need those folks to be able to work and not have to worry about the other side of things. So with that said, that's our goals. Absolutely, we'll be all here for questions. As on behalf of Northern Rockies Team 6, I know this is going to sound a little weird, but we are excited to be here. We are working for you. We are working for these folks that are sitting up here, and we promise you with everything in our heart that we will do the best job that we can, that when we're done here, we'll get you that much closer to being back to normal, whatever that looks like today. So I will turn it back over to our moderator and say, again, thank you for having us here.
Thank you, Rich. Now we'd like to open up the floor to questions related to the fire. The way this is going to work, my colleague, Phil Sneed, he has a second microphone. He'll be circulating around the room. If you have a question, please raise your hand and Phil will take the microphone to you. We have about 20 minutes, and it looks like in the back.
Well, thank you very much for you all being here. My name is Doug Winter. I'm the president of the local CO6D1 Water Association, and we can guarantee as backup 20,000 gallons of water. And Tanner, I think you know where that turnaround and pickup is. So we just want you to know that we have some water resources that are available.
Thank you, sir.
Hold it right here for this.
Yeah, one of the questions I have is, can weather modification be used to help this fire? Cloud seeding?
Could you, is that a weather question?
Well, no, they can make it rain. They can make it rain. They have the technology to do so.
Ahmet?
I can try to address that. On some local scales, there is some weather modification that has been tested. I'm not sure how effective that has been. I can tell you just from my perspective of forecasting the weather that if I had the ability to do that, my forecast would be a lot more accurate. So unfortunately, I think just because of the dryness of the atmosphere out here, there's just not a lot of moisture that's been available. As I mentioned in the weather portion of this, we're looking at some monsoon moisture coming up. It looks potentially pretty good. At the minimum, we'll bring up the relative humidity, hopefully get some rainfall out of that. As you know, with the monsoon, it can be kind of spotty who gets a lot of rain, who gets a little bit. With that rain, we could have some issues with flash flooding and debris flows. As was mentioned, the soils are not really receptive to water infiltrating. It'll just run off kind of like concrete, so that results in what we call debris flows. So there's certainly concerns with that. But in terms of weather modification, to my knowledge, in terms of weather forecasting, there's nothing that we can really do on that end.
That's truly unfortunate. Also, there's been rumors and reports that certain firemen have been going into people's home and looting them. Has that been put under control by the Sheriff's Department?
We can answer that, and Phil will take the microphone.
Hi, Deputy Matthews. We have not heard any rumors of that specifically, but we are working diligently. We are coming up here and patrolling the area actively when we can, when we do not have active calls. Typically, there's only about 2 of us on at a shift, and we do control the area pretty heavily to prevent the looters from coming into your homes and everything like that. If you have any records of that or any evidence of that, please feel forward to email it to me, myself, or anybody at our office during the shift, okay?
Thank you.
Hi, I've got a question about resources that we can go to find out more information about the fire. One of the websites that I've been following is a federal government site called fire.airnow.gov. I think it's primarily intended to give reports about where smoke from fires is going, but one of the things that it does display is hotspots on the fire. And I'm wondering if anybody from the incident management team or anyone else knows how accurate those hotspots are. It's currently showing the hottest spots being in the Chicken's Foot and up above Lake Isabel. So I assume it's fairly accurate, but I don't know.
Thank you.
So, yes. So we're using a series of different levels of accuracy of information. That one is using a satellite derived. So it's in the 100 meters plus, and it's also dependent on the amount of heat coming off on average within, say, the square of this building or bigger. So it's generally accurate, but a lot of times, you know, we have North Dakota, they have oil fields. The flares off an oil thing can show up. So the accuracy needs to be ground verified. So, you know, and then there's satellite data, there's plane-based. We have little drones that have information, you know, so there's different levels. That system uses a satellite-based system. So, and actually there's varying grades. Some are 250 meter resolution, 100 meter, 1,000 meters. So sometimes you'll see different square sizes in there, so.
Oh,
That question made me think I forgot something about when I talked about process, right? So a couple nights ago, I think there was an evacuation warning, or some folks were thinking there was an evacuation that really wasn't happening. Came off the app Watch Duty. I think if anybody's looking at Watch Duty, yeah, okay. Here's the thing about Watch Duty. It's a great app to get good general information. There's a couple of them. Western Fire Chiefs Association has a fire map. There's a couple of them that are out there. The kicker to all of that is when you look at accurate information, the most accurate place to go to is probably our Facebook site or the county's sites, because they're going to give you the numbers that we turn in. It's on a form called a 209. Those numbers are validated every day, and they're official, right? And so, but we have to turn those in at about 1500, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and so they're about 24 hours old. So a lot of times we'll get questions on, well, this app says it's 40% contained, you're only saying it's 30% contained, or this app is saying it's 48,000 acres and you're only saying it's 45,000 acres. Well, what's the discrepancy? The discrepancy is because of that time frame. Now, what happens after those numbers go and get published, which is the official record, then the night operations comes back from the field and they do an intelligence download. And they get with our mapping folks and our GIS folks, and they start drawing these lines on the map, and they refer back to the infrared that you're seeing. And so that's where some of that discrepancy comes from if you're looking at those kind of things and going, the two numbers don't jive. That's because the 209 is a snapshot of a point in time of when that report is generated, and some of the other information comes out after intelligence is delivered. Now, an organization like Watch Duty can grab that 209, or they can grab any of our information that's public facing, and they have the ability to put it out much sooner than we do. And so sometimes when you look at our official reports that come out from our PIOs versus what's on the apps or some of these news sources, that's where the discrepancy comes in. And I'm just going to tell you a little secret. So usually if you look at our official numbers and you say, we'll say it's 45,000 acres and 38% contained, the acreage is probably pretty close, the containment's probably off. And that's because those operations guys are really, really conservative about reporting containment, because they want to know with as much certainty as they can that that fire is not going to move anymore on them. So usually when we're reporting a containment number, it's lower than what it actually is, but that's the number we know is solid, okay? So sometimes just some discrepancy. I was going to say that when I was up here the first time, and it just related to that app question. So.
Thanks, Rich.
So the gentleman talked about re-entry cards, even though we're not evacuated yet. Is that something that we should get now ahead of time, or and if so, can he let us know where to go get those again?
So the reentry cards are based on actual evacuated zones. So if you're not evacuated, you wouldn't get a reentry card yet. Part of that reason is because they're typically color-coded based on specific elements and regions. For example, the H1 evacuated zone, is dependent upon the P11 evacuated zone in Pueblo County, and so it's tied from a color scheme perspective with P11, whereas H16 and H17 are going to be different colors than that. It allows us to be able to control and see what's happening in a particular region, because we have seen that fire behavior is something that's dynamic, something that's erratic, and so it has to be a comprehensive response to that. We can't just go ahead and give you a reentry card because it may not correlate with what actually happens after the fact. Thank you. And for where it's available, right now it would be the Huerfano County Department of Human Services starting on Monday. Residents in H1 are able to get those at the Pueblo Disaster Assistance Center at 29 Lehigh Avenue in Pueblo. That is transitioning to a Recovery Assistance Center on Monday, but residents in H1 can still get cards there if they haven't. So, thank you.
Great question.
Thank you. I'm Jim Fowler. I'm speaking as a resident adjacent to the Greenhorn Wilderness area. Can somebody address what plans I've heard about creating some fire lines at the bottom of that wilderness area on private land? Whoever would like to address that, I'd like to hear from them, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So the Alaska team had started some really good plans. Again, the conditions were different when they were here. Their primary containment lines as the fire was moving, and you have to give yourself time and space, was around the Greenhorn Wilderness area, further west of the fire, pretty far out there. And they were actively looking at roads, prepping roads, making fuel breaks, just like on the west of Rye, fuel breaks coming down here. Once that imminent threat, the fire is not bearing down, we have to weigh that. We don't want to do more damage or fuel removal or on, federal lands, private lands. So we've got to be really careful way out there if the imminent threat is declined. So we have those located with our plans that we're talking about. If this fire started getting up and move, we have plans to reinitiate those control lines that are further out from the fire. But our main focus right now with the firefighters we have is close to the fire's edge as possible to keep the footprint and the fire as small as possible right now. So those lines are identified, but those other lines, we've just put a hold on those.
Hi, good evening. I'm Joe, also a resident. Thank you for your work and keeping us safe. Appreciate that. We're surrounded by either a level 3 or a level 2 in that southwesterly direction. I'm happy to hear you're really focusing on that, but we are seeing the fire creep over into our area, and we're a nothing. We're not even a 1. So I'm wondering, what's the likelihood that such a rural area will, in the southwesterly direction, catch fire?
Exactly. We look at that, again, time and space. We don't want to displace people that we don't have to. We look at that. From my standpoint, we travel all over the nation. We work with usually the county sheriff, who's has responsibility, authority for those evacuations. Excuse me. We can recommend, but they make the final determination. We work backwards. How much time do you need to get out of your home? How much time do you need to get your livestock, your things away? And then we work backwards and work with our fire behavior analysts, the fuels, our folks. And usually the worst thing is having somebody knocking on your door when smoke and flames are coming down. That's what we don't want. We want you to be able to drive out at the speed limit and get far away. So we like to give folks as much time. Usually 24 hours is minimum. It might even be 48 hours if we can. If you're not in those evacuation zone, usually our planning, our thought process is you have enough time to get out of there. As we know, some of those trees, the thick, timbered forests, the areas that we haven't logged or done fuel treatments on, the intensity of those fires can be pretty high. Sometimes we have to find those natural breaks, the lakes, the rivers, natural grass areas to hold that fire, and sometimes that's further down. So we look at those areas as well and say, these are areas where we feel will be pretty successful in stopping the fire. But where we're at right now, up on the slope, 10, 11,000 feet, you know, rocky terrain it's tough. That's where we want to hold the fire right now. So if you're not an evac, I don't know exactly, but I'm pretty confident you're not in a threat right now. And as it starts moving and we're unsuccessful, again, we have multiple meetings all day talking about that. If that fire we had thought was going to start coming out, we have a notification process, a whole checklist if we start notifying the OES, the sheriff, and getting folks out of the way. Because the worst thing, again, is not having enough time. And I've been in those situations where people are telling me, should I leave? And I'm telling them, it's too late. Best thing you could do is just stay on your porch. We'll be here and we'll protect your home. I've been in that situation. So I want to give folks as much time as they can to get out of the way.
Thanks, Manny. And just a great moment. If you have additional questions or if it would be helpful to be in front of a map with our team and our other cooperators, they'll be available after the meeting as well. I think we have time for one more question live, but again, everyone is going to hang out at the back of the room. I saw a bunch of hands, so please feel free to take up some of their time when we conclude. And there she is.
Hi, my name is Mary Jensen. I live here in Gardner. For those people who might be tempted to try and ride a fire out inside a house that is made maybe of mortar or concrete, can you give us some idea about what the temperatures in the ground are, and also how they might be exponentially raised with the winds that fires create?
So I'm going to put my fire chief hat on. My first recommendation is don't. You know, 2011, I want to say, was the black fire in Australia. There's two things we want people to keep in mind. Sheltering in place is a good thing if you've made the preparations, meaning fuels mitigation. You don't have to leave for anything, and you have the provisions to stay there. The absolute worst thing you can do is to be in a fire zone and decide to leave during the event. One of the most catastrophic, highest loss of life fires in the wildland-urban interface happened in Australia, and they lost, I believe, 111 people that decided to leave during the event. Now, in Australia, they do some things differently than we do in the United States. They preach, they teach ready, set, go, which really means that if you live in the environment of wildfire, that you understand when to be ready. Conditions such as we see now, right? And that ready is that you have stuff gathered up, you know where you're gonna go, you know when to leave. The set is to make sure that that stuff is closer to the door or loaded in your vehicle. You've contacted people and whatnot, and the go is to know when to go early. In Australia, they also teach their communities that you either leave early or you stay in place. But to stay in place means you have to be prepared. I can't tell you the temperatures. We know fire fronts come through at thousands of degrees, right? Most homes that burn down in a wildland-urban interface fire do not burn down because of the direct flame. Most homes that burn down because of what I'll affectionately call our accumulation of stuff around the home. Meaning, it could be doormats, it could be lawn furniture, it could be wood piles, it could be pine needles and gutters, it could be all of those kind of things. We've had firefighters ride out a fire front in a home, but you got to remember they're trained and prepared and equipped to do it, and we still don't recommend they do it, right? So what we would really highly advise is try not to, because, and the other thing that I'll throw out there is it diverts our attention, right? It diverts our attention from a firefight to where we can take care of the fire that's threatening you to a rescue situation, and we prioritize life first if we can. Homes, like I said, don't typically spontaneously combust, but there's a whole set of things you want: curtains drawn, double pane windows, survivable space around the home and everything, and I would say just highly recommend, if you don't have all of that, don't try it. I know that doesn't answer your question, but that was my soapbox for that. Yeah, don't do it unless if you don't have to.
As promised, on the dot, 8 o'clock. Thank you, Gardner, so much for extending the hospitality to join you tonight. And I thank everybody in the room for your thoughtful questions. I'm sure it's just the same online on Facebook and YouTube. Again, all of these wonderful folks are willing and able to meet you if you have additional questions. I'd also like to give a little Easter egg. We also have our air resource advisor here if you have any questions about the smoke reports or air quality. He's raising his hand right now. Haha. So thank you very much, Gardner. It's been a pleasure to be with you tonight.